Hi guys, and welcome back from Carly at the Herbathicary. Really good to see you guys again. If you're new to the channel or like the videos, please show your support by hitting like and subscribe down below. In last week's video, we made our Cleavers Spring Tonic that we make every year. It is great for detoxification and clearing out your system and getting you ready for the spring ahead. And this week, we will be looking at 3 other ways that we use our medicinal plants and herbs here at the Herbathicary to extract their herbal and their medicinal qualities and use them for medicinal purposes. We will not be covering all the medicinal benefits of these plants in this video, as I have covered it in previous videos. We will, however, be looking at the different ways. So some are water soluble, some are fat soluble, and some are alcohol soluble. So we would make either an infusion, an oil extract, or a balm, or a tincture using an alcohol. Most people would use vodka for this. However, we actually just prefer making it into a wine if it's for the adults, and we avoid the tinctures when it comes to the kids. So on with the disclaimer. I'm not a doctor, I'm not an ethnobotanist, I own a few good guidebooks, and I've been doing this for a while. So always do your own thorough research, be 100% sure, so check with a book, check with the internet, and check with a foraging group. Don't eat anything unless you're 100% sure. Make sure you've got the landowner's permission before you do. Avoid areas where they might be polluted or animals might have sprayed. Never pick endangered species, and only ever take as much as you need. So on to the first process, and for this I will be using this chocolate mint that is going nuts in my garden, or one of the gardens that I look after rather. And we will be using this not only for its scent but also for its antibacterial properties, as we will be making a salve for a couple of my friends who suffer from cold sores, and as their immune system's a bit down at the moment, they are having an outbreak. Our second ingredient is this beautiful lemon balm that's just come back to life. Not only is this also antibacterial and it smells nice, it has also been used for centuries to help fight cold sores. As both of these plants are growing quite prolifically at the moment and in need of a trim, I will not only be harvesting the leaves, I'll actually be harvesting entire stems. I'll pick off some of the leaves, and then these stalks, I'm actually going to trim all of the bottom leaves off them and cut them just under a node and pop them in some water to propagate. I find this a very useful way of doubling up my plants, and it works really well. So I've done that with the mint and the lemon balm, and here's some mint that I did only a week ago. As you can see, it already has some really healthy roots, so I will be potting them up and have another 7 chocolate mint plants. So on with the balm. And I've got my double boiler system. Now, to begin with, I do use a bigger pan because there is a lot of plant matter. So I've cut them up and I've just popped them in to the pan, and I'm using coconut oil for this. Now, it does solidify at room temperature, so I'm just going to pop that over my double boiler, which in this case is my steam cooker with a sieve and my pan in the water. Now, only a little bit needs to go in, as the coconut oil does actually melt at a low temperature. And by crushing or cutting up the herbs, you do allow more of the active ingredients to be absorbed into the oil. So I'm just going to let this simmer, not too high, mixing it occasionally. And I normally leave it for about a couple of hours, or until there is a substantial change in the color of the oil. So as you can see, it's still quite clear. So while that is simmering away, I'm going to go on to the second method, which is a tea or a hot water infusion. Now I've got a sniffly nose and watering eyes, a tickly throat and a cough at the moment, but as I've been out foraging, I am assuming it's just a bit of hay fever, and I am a sucker for punishment as I suffer every year. Now I use about 2 teaspoons worth of usually the dry herb, but as this is fresh, a small handful, and pop it in my kettle in my little infuser teapot and allow that to simmer. Now I do boil the kettle and allow it to cool a bit. Most of the active ingredients in plants and herbs do start to diminish after about 40 degrees Celsius. So allow the kettle to cool a bit. Obviously, you do want it hot enough so that it does extract, as you won't be leaving it to simmer as long as a cold infusion would. So back to our balm, and the oil is starting to change color, but it's not quite ready, so I'll leave that for a little bit longer. And as it's been around 10 minutes now, I'm going to go and enjoy my tea. And as you can see, the water has changed color quite a lot, and all the active ingredients are now in the water. So back over at my salve, and it's been sitting for about an hour now, and that oil has changed color quite nicely, and all of the plant matter has been absorbed and gone wilted. So now it's time to separate the plant matter from the infused oil, and I can use a much smaller container now as I don't have all that plant mass. So I just use a funnel, and I've got this gauze which has got really fine holes in it, so I overlap them and just pop them into my into my funnel, and I'm just going to pour all that plant matter through the fine mesh. You can use a cheesecloth, or you could, if you've got a fine mesh strainer, just use that. However, I still find that I get some little plant bits in if I've used a crushed and dried herb. So I'm just going to pop all that in. Now, this is normally the fun bit, and I let my kids do it as they enjoy it. But I don't want to get all of this on my hands at the moment, so I'm being a big baby, and I am going to wear gloves for this part. And I'm going to squeeze that mesh to get all of the infused oil out and back into my heating container for the next stage. To make a balm or a salve, you need an oil to infuse, and you need a wax to solidify it. Now, as I've used coconut oil that does solidify at room temperature, this stage isn't really necessary, but I do add, in my case, about a teaspoon of beeswax to just help it solidify a bit more. Now, I use this 100% organic, even though I'm pretty sure beeswax is usually organic, and I cut it really fine. So you can use the beads, but I don't want to have to heat it too long in order to melt the beeswax. So as you see, I've got about 60 mils of the oil, probably about 70 actually, and I've got a teaspoon of beeswax, and I'm just going to pop that back on the heat. Now I have turned the boiler off now, and I'm just using the residual heat from before, and I'm just going to mix that until all of that beeswax has melted into my infused oil. And I've got my 2 very well cleaned and sterilized jars. I'm then going to add a couple of drops of tea tree oil. Well, I actually added about 10. This is not only to help preserve the balm, but it's also going to act as an extra antibacterial, antifungal. Obviously, this one not being a naturally extracted oil, it won't be edible. Not dangerous if you do lick your lips. However, if you've got a cold sore, I don't think you'll be licking your lips very often. So I am just going to pop these aside and allow them to solidify or to set. I did get a bit impatient halfway through, so I sacrificed a cold butter that was in the freezer. I know you probably shouldn't freeze butter, but it wasn't me who did it. So I'm just going to allow those to set and then pop on the lids and pop them in the fridge. And on to our third method, which is a poultice. Now, out foraging yesterday, I had an unfortunate brush with some nettles, and although the redness has gone down, the sting remains. I know the go-to for a stinging nettle sting is usually the dark leaf, but that's mostly because where there's nettles, there's usually dark. My favourite, however, is this Redwater Plantain. Now, while out foraging, if in need, you can just crush this leaf up to get the juices out and rub that on the affected area. But as I'll be processing this at home, I'm going to chop it as finely as I can at first. And then I'm going to grab my pestle and mortar as I want to crush it up to get as much of that oil out as possible. Now you can just add water to this, but as I do have some aloe, it's very soothing on the skin and helps rebuild the affected tissue, just in case it's not just the nettle stings, as it is unusual for me to still be stinging 24 hours later. So I'm going to crush them up as finely as I can and then add a little bit of water to make a paste with a small amount of aloe vera gel. I'm then simply just going to pop this on the affected area. Now I have a dressing here. You can just pop gauze over it and a bandage. So just going to pop that on the area, and as you can see, all those green juices are coming out. And then I'm going to just pop that bandage. This is supposed to be a waterproof one. We'll see how good it is. And ooh, bear with me, these are very sticky. And I'm just going to cover that area and allow it to sit for a few hours. I'll then change it if necessary, but hopefully it would have done the job by then and I won't need to pop another one on. But bear with me. As you can see, all that green juice is coming out, and to be honest, it already feels better. So that's 3 ways that we use herbs here at the Herbathicary. In our next video, we will be making a feverfew butter to help with headaches and a dandelion flower infused apple cider vinegar. We did make the apple cider vinegar in December from some leftover organic apples that we had. And one of my favorites is a Damiana and nettle seed infused red wine that is believed to have some aphrodisiac properties. Hope you guys found that fun like I did and useful, picked up maybe a tip or two, another item to go and research in your own time. Again, thank you guys for coming back to the Herbathicary. It was great to see you again. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.